So it is 7:31 p.m. on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026. Good evening. My name is Christian Klein, and I am the chair of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm calling this meeting of the board to order. I would first like to confirm that all members and anticipated officials are present. So members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have Roger DuPont,
Here.
Patrick Hanlon,
Here.
Venkat Hawley,
Here.
Adam LeBlanc,
Here.
and then our two associates, Brad Baranowski
Here.
and Nicholas Rosenberg.
Here.
Good to have you all here. From the town, we have Colleen Ralston, our clerk and zoning assistant.
Here.
Good to have you with us. And then for docket 3897 27 Brand Street, James and Audrey Harmon.
Here.
Good to have you here. And for docket 3898 26 Dudley Street, Fred Gilgun. Let's see you in your window.
Sorry about that.
Right. So tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the bill signed by Governor Healy on March 28th, 2025, which extended temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. The extension of these provisions allows public bodies to hold their meetings remotely by providing live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast by ACMi. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom and who wish to offer public comment should be aware that they will be asked to provide their full name and address so that a complete public record of the meeting can be taken in accordance with state law. All participants of this meeting are advised that people may be listening to the meeting without offering public comment, and those people are not required to identify themselves. Any votes that are taken this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. As chair, I reserve the right to take items out of order in the interest of promoting an orderly meeting. As the board will be taking up new business at this meeting, as chair, I make the following land acknowledgement. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington, Massachusetts discusses and arbitrates the use of land in Arlington, formerly known as Menotomy, an Algonquin word meaning swift waters. The board hereby acknowledges the town of Arlington is located on the ancestral lands of the Massachusetts tribe, the tribe of indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and commonwealth have taken their names. We pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historic Massachusetts territories today. So going to our posted agenda, I am going to go ahead and move the administrative portion to the end so we can just get going with the public hearings at this point. So with that brings us to item 5 on our agenda, which is docket 3897 27 Brand Street. And before I open tonight's meeting for public hearings, I have some ground rules for clear and effective conduct. After I announce an agenda item, I'll ask the applicant to introduce themselves and make their presentation to the board. I'll then request that members of the board ask what questions they have on the proposal. After the board's questions have been answered, I will open the meeting for public comment. At the conclusion of public comment, the board will deliberate and vote to either continue or close the public hearing. All votes will be conducted by roll call vote. The final vote on any matter before the board will be taken at a subsequent meeting once the written decision has been drafted and provided to the board. After the decision has been adopted and signed, the decision will be filed with the town clerk, starting the 20-day appeal period under state law. After that time, the applicant may proceed with the building permit. However, under state law, no decision granted by this board shall take effect until a certified copy of the final decision has been filed with and recorded at the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds in Cambridge by the applicant. So with that, we will open docket 3897 27 Brand Street. So if I could go ahead and ask Ms. Harmon to introduce yourself and tell us what they are proposing to do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey Harmon, and I live at 27 Brand Street. We've been there 16, 17 years, and we are looking to put a little front porch on the front of the house to contribute to curb appeal and to also protect the front door and steps from rain, snow, sleet, and weather. And I think we're about 2 feet shy of the allotment. So we are here.
Great, thank you. Let me go ahead. I will share the documentation. Oop. There we go. So this is the plot plan. And as it notes, there's a proposed porch here, which will go over the front steps. The required setback is 25 feet, so this would extend into that area as it's 4.9 feet deep. And then I also have here, these are the drawings that were provided by Valandry, who's the contractor for the project. Just a very straightforward porch and steps, pair of columns, and a hipped roof on the front, and then just a structural plan as well. So the dimensions are here on this plan, are here on the structural plan. So 10 foot 10 by 4 foot 10 and 3/4.
And the stairs that we're replacing are the original, I think 1991 cement stairs that are starting to crumble apart.
They do that.
It's the salt that we put down in the winter.
Okay, and this is before us under section 539D of the zoning bylaw, which allows for the covering of existing construction in the front yard setback only by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So go ahead and stop the share and ask the board if they have questions in regards to the application. See anyone coming forward with a question. Would just note for the record, this is sort of on the opposite side of the lot from the driveway. So this is in no way close to the driveway, would no way impact visibility of vehicles entering and exiting the site. I did have a few questions on the application. There was nothing, there were a couple of numbers that were a little off, but there was nothing that was to the point that it would cause a problem for the board. And so, second time, are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, I will now be opening the meeting for public comment. Public questions and comments will be taken as they relate to the matter at hand. It should be directed to the board for the purpose of informing its decision. Members of the public will be granted time to ask questions and make comments. Those who wish to address the board should digitally raise their hand using the button on the React tab in the Zoom application. Those calling in by phone, please dial *9 to indicate you would like to speak. You'll be called upon by the chair, asked to give your name and address for the record, and given time for your questions and comments. All questions are to be addressed through the chair. Please remember to speak clearly. And once all public questions and comments have been addressed, the public comment period will be closed. So with that, are there any members of the public who wish to address this application? Again, this is docket 3897, 27 Brand Street in Arlington. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public comment period for this hearing. Board will now discuss findings and either vote to close the hearing or recommend a continuance. So with that, so what the board has before it, this is an application for a special permit under section 539D to construct a porch over an existing set of front steps. And because it is within the front yard setback, it requires a special permit from the Board of Appeals. The required finding that the board needs to make is that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts. As was noted by the applicant, the benefits for the applicant are that it creates a place outside their front door that's out of the weather that allows them to receive packages, receive guests and visitors, and enter their home safely. It also adds to curb appeal of the house, as it's a very sort of well-designed and simple addition to the front of their home. And I think that would certainly outweigh any adverse effects that this would have encroaching very slightly into the front yard setback. And we're required to make 7 subsidiary findings. The first is that the requested use is allowed or allowed by special permit in the district. We noted it's allowed under section 539D with a special permit from the board. The requested use is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare. As we discussed for the owners of the home, it's desirable for them in order to create a more appealing front to their house and to create a safer entrance to their house. And it is also it's desirable to the community at large in that it creates a more pleasant entrance appearance to the home. The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. As we noted, this is away from the driveway, so it will not interfere at all with the visibility from the driveway to the street and does not encroach at all on any sidewalk. The requested use will not overload any public system. There will be probably 1 or 2 lights out there, but that's about it. That certainly would not cause any overload of a system. The special regulations for the requested use are fulfilled. There are no special regulations attached to this request. Requested use will not impair the character or integrity of the district. As we noted, this is a well thought out and simple addition to the front of the home, and as such does fit in with the character of the district. And it will not be detrimental to public health or welfare. This is just a front entry porch on a single family home. It will not have any impact on the public health or welfare. And the requested use will not cause an excess use detrimental to the neighborhood. This just continues a residential single family use in a single family district, and therefore is the use for which the district is intended. Are there any questions from the board in regards to those proposed findings?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Baranowski.
could I add to the public welfare? I guess it would land there or anywhere where it's relevant that the stairs, as they currently are, we've been told, are in a state of increasing disrepair, and so they need to be repaired anyway. And so this will make a safer entry into the house, it sounds like, as well.
Thank you for bringing that forward. So should the board vote to approve, there are 3 standard conditions that the board would attach, which I will go ahead and read into the record. The first is that the plans and specifications approved by the board for the special permit shall be the final plans and specifications submitted to the building inspector of the town of Arlington in connection with this application for zoning relief. Should be no deviation during construction from approved plans and specifications without the express written approval of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. Second is the building inspector is hereby notified they're to monitor the site and should proceed with appropriate enforcement procedures at any time they determine that violations are present. Building inspector shall proceed under section 3.1 of the zoning bylaw and under the provisions of chapter 40, section 21D of the Massachusetts general laws and institute non-criminal complaints. If necessary, the building inspector may also approve and institute appropriate criminal action also in accordance with section 3.1. And the third is that the board shall maintain continuing jurisdiction with respect to the special permit grant. Are there any additional conditions that members of the board feel would be appropriate for this request for zoning relief? Seeing none, I will ask Mr. Hanlon if he would be willing to direct the drafting of a decision in favor of approval. Oh, sorry, Mr. Hanlon, you are on mute.
I'm very rarely mute, so that was an experience. Yes, sir, I will.
Great. So with that, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington close the public hearing for docket 3897, 27 Brand Street. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So the board will draft a decision at its next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks. The board will make a final vote on the decision, and at that point, it'll be transferred to the town clerk's office, and then a copy can be picked up there. So with that, vote to close the public hearing on this item. Mr. DuPont?
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We are closed on 27 Brand Street. Thank you very much for coming before us this evening, and you'll be hearing from us in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much to all.
You're very welcome. So the next item on our agenda is docket 3898 26 Dudley Street. I have an interest in this application and therefore I am recused. And so I will pass off the baton to Vice Chair Patrick Hanlon to take over at this time, and I will turn off my video and audio.
Thank you.
Pat, you're muted.
Excuse me, what we have before us is an application for a variance in an industrial district, which industrial districts are not so common for us, so it's an enjoyable thing to embark upon. And I guess the question I have is who from the applicant would like to start the presentation? Mr. Gilkin,
Yes, that would be me, Mr.
we
Chairman.
leave it to you. If
Great,
you could
thank you.
introduce yourself and the app and others that you may wish to, and then say what you'd like to do.
Yes, be happy to. So good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Frederick Gilgun. I'm an attorney with the law firm Nicholson, Schrader and Gilgun in Lexington, and I represent the applicant, Santini Realty Trust. Present with me this evening is the architect on this project, who is Mark Poisson of Approach 3. Also, the principal owners of Santini Realty Trust, Mark Santini and Gary Santini, are also present. This project involves a commercial redevelopment of 26 Dudley Street. The Santini family, who own the property, have also operated a construction company in town for more than 70 years. They're now in the process of transitioning to a third generation of Santini's and look to continue to operate out of Arlington. They're currently at the property located down the street at 61 Dudley Street. They've outgrown that space and they'd like to relocate to this property at 26 Dudley Street. And they're proposing to take the existing commercial building that fronts on Dudley Street and add an addition to it to meet their needs and eliminate an existing storage building that's on the property. This project is subject to the jurisdiction of the Arlington Redevelopment Board under the Environmental Design Review, and it's also subject to the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, as we are impacted by the Millbrook. We are within the 200-foot Rivers Act and also the 50-foot buffer. So we know we will need to proceed with approvals from both of those boards, but since the zoning piece is foundational to the project, we're appropriately before you this evening seeking variances. And what we are requesting is we're requesting a modification to a front yard variance that was granted back in 1966 that will further extend that to the easterly boundary of the property. And in addition, we're looking for a variance from the side yard setback and also from the rear yard setback. Mr. Chairman, is there a way I can share my screen? Let's see if I can share this.
Ms. Ralston, could you facilitate? Great.
You can let me know. Can you see that?
We can now.
Okay, terrific. Yeah. So this will help us better, I think. You can see on this side over here the existing conditions, and you can see the existing commercial building that sits on Dudley Street. And as presently situated, it's only 3.8 feet from the property line. In the back, you'll see the storage facility, and you can see that this building encroaches as much as to within a foot of the property line on the side yard and within 3 feet of the rear. If we move over to the other side of this diagram here, you can see what we're proposing to do is to add this addition to the existing building. And where we already have the current variance that allows for the front yard encroachment, we're seeking for that to be modified to allow this further encroachment, this additional 15.21 feet. And we're also seeking an additional variance, as I indicated, for the side yard, because that now the proposed addition will be located 5 feet from the property line, and also the rear property line, and that will also be set back 5 feet from the property line. The grounds in support of the variance we submit are that this property is unique in that it has 3 of the conditions that are required to have a variance issued. And the first is that its lot shape. And you can see here it is a very oddly shaped lot, almost trapezoidal in nature, a little triangle piece back here, decreasing in frontage from where it's 133 feet across down to 80 feet in the rear. In addition, as I mentioned, it is impacted by the Millbrook, which runs back here, and the buffer zone encroaches onto this portion of the property. And then finally, there is a topography issue in that there is a 10-foot slope running across the property in this direction here. So as far as the first leg of the test goes, we do have conditions to be considered for the variance. These conditions really impact the layout of the parking, the drive aisle, and the location and the size of the buildings, and would cause a significant economic hardship if we were required to meet the 10-foot setbacks as required, both side and rear. In addition, we submit that the variance can be granted without any detriment to the public good and without derogating from the intent of the zoning bylaw. It should be noted that on this side of the property, there is that storage facility that's some 60 feet high. And on this side of the property, we do have another residential building, but we'll be allowed to sort of move the property further away, creating a greater buffer from that property if the variance is granted. Also significantly, we'll be decreasing the nonconformities that currently exist with the storage building. So where then it encroaches to within 1 foot of the property line on the side, it'll now be 5 feet. Where it's within 3 feet of the property line, it will now be 5 feet in the rear. So there is that advantage. Also, the new building will be complying with all the current codes, including building, fire, health and safety, which will reduce risk of fire. We're also increasing the parking on the site, which will minimize the impact on traffic and on-street parking on Dudley Street. There will also be an increase in landscaped area, which will add to the aesthetics of the site, increase with better drainage, all which will benefit the area properties. We'll also have the building will be accessible for, complying with all accessibility laws for all employees and customers of the property. So all in all, we believe that we meet this standard for the variance and that we have these 3 unique conditions that don't present themselves in the zoning district in general. We do have certainly an economic hardship, and we believe that it can be granted without any detriment to the public good, without derogating from the intent of the zoning bylaw. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Chairman, entertain any questions that you may have.
Tell me a little bit more about your parking, about the relationship between your parking and the requirement of the bylaw. You have noted, I think, on the plans that that the bylaw requires 18 parking spaces, and you have 13, which puts you 5 short. And I'm wondering why you're not asking for any relief
I think that
from that provision.
I think we anticipated that would be within the jurisdiction of the redevelopment board, and we intended to raise that as part of that application special permit site plan.
So you're intending to both use EDR, and the only thing you want, if they didn't give it to you, then through EDR and through modification, through a special permit, then you'd be back here presumably asking for a variance from that, right?
Yeah, we have to get the special permit from the Arlington Redevelopment Board regardless. So, but we're really looking basically for approval for the footprint of these buildings, and then we'll be subject to the jurisdiction of the ARB for everything else.
Okay, are there any other questions from members of the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Barowski.
I was wondering if the applicant could speak a little bit more in detail about the substantial hardship prong, particularly If you could kind of just give more details how, what exactly the substantial hardships are. I know that I understand their financial likely in nature, but if you could give just more specificity on that, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's really as to it's an economic hardship, clearly. If we are required to keep within the setbacks, this will, significantly reduce the size of the addition that can be constructed. You can see here's the line here. The setback line here would have to pull out within here. Um, and um, and if we don't get this here, we'd have to have the setback from the front as well. So you really are eliminating a significant amount of space on this oddly shaped parcel, which would present certainly issues for Santini Construction to be able to house their operations there. They need to have trucks to be able to park and access this sort of warehousing area. In that limited space, it would be much more challenging for them to do so. So it is just an economic hardship that really forces this building into a smaller size that really doesn't allow for the accommodation of many commercial use. This is an industrial zoned area that really we believe fits perfectly within the uses in that district, and just want to be able to accommodate the construction company's use.
So would you say that, I mean, given that clearly your client's business has grown, would you say that it'd be difficult to see how a different client, a different company would be able to use this space
Yeah, I
without
mean,
this type of expansion?
yeah, and already like this, as currently constructed, it's already presenting issues with them leasing out the space, and a lot of it's because of size constraints. So most industries that would want this district require much larger space than. It's not like this isn't like office space really. It's industrial, and that's really the attractive. The target occupant of this space would be an industrial use, which requires a much more significant building structure than can be permitted if we don't get the variance from the setbacks.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Mr. Gilgun?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Thanks. Just a couple questions. If you could just help us understand or help me understand a little better the addition, the nature of the addition, and how it compares in sort of size, function, height to the existing storage area in the back of the property there.
Yeah, I think maybe Mr. Poison, can you address the
Yeah, certainly. Can I share my screen?
Surely. Ms. Ralston? Well, see if I can reach her.
I think Mr. Gilgun has to shut his share off.
I see.
Sorry about that.
That's
Also.
That's a neat trick. Only one person can talk at a time. We've got it.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So just so everyone has a sense of what the existing conditions are, this is facing the property. That's as you look at the left-hand side, that's the existing office building. And then beyond it, you can see the massive 5-story storage facility. So the edge we're talking about encroaching upon is right up against, if you see my cursor, right, it's talking about down that length, and then once again coming all down there. So I just want to give you a sense of the existing site conditions, and then I will switch to the drawing set. Okay, so this is the plan that Mr. Gilligan had on showing the existing building. This is a one-story shed at the rear of the lot. And what also needs to take into consideration, because it's in such dilapidated condition, we're taking it down and replacing it with a new structure. We are foregoing the loss of the grandfather setback, right? Right now, we are smack dab in that corner. In our proposed, we're actually improving upon that setback depth and creating this new larger setback both at the rear and at the side relative to that back corner. So as you go towards the elevations of the building, so these are the existing conditions. So it's a 3-story building at the front, which we're maintaining going forward. Those are the floor plans. So this shows sort of the massing of the front, the new tower that we're building as you're facing the building on the left-hand side, and then that's the new back sort of warehouse space for the Santini's. So it's not quite, it's about 1.5 stories, right, to give the head height into the warehouse space. And then the 3-story maintains at the front. So that's looking at it front with the new tier towers to the left and right. This is alongside the edge where it meets up with the storage facility.
And
So
what
the massing is towards the front and then it decreases as you go to the rear.
Mr. Chair, I would just ask the applicant if they can just talk a little bit more about the use of this space versus the storage. I mean, it looks like the existing storage is, it doesn't look like it's not an active loading area. It's not bays. It looks like, I think there's even a container there or something like it, or it looks like a sort of just a heavy door to the storage area. And this looks like more of an active warehouse loading type facility. Is that accurate?
Mr. Gilligan
Mr. Poisson would be better suited to handle that.
or either one, Mr. Poisson, if you can answer that question, you should.
So relative, right, this is sort of office function. And then going forward, we go back to the drawing set. At this point, right, so their trucks are going into this area here. And this is the area we're calling they're using as warehouse space, and that's their flex space on the first.
And the existing space is a shed, what you describe as a shed?
Oh, at the existing at the rear of the property?
Yes.
Yep. You can see it right there. So it's a combination garage and shed.
Oh, it is a garage.
Yep.
And is it used as a garage?
I'd have to defer to Mr. Santini and what he's actually doing back there at the moment. But it's in such poor condition, I think they're hesitant to put things in there at the moment.
Understood. And then just going back to the parking issue, I just noticed that it looks like currently there's traffic flow that can go around the building, and there are 2 entrances or exits to the property. And obviously building this addition is going to cut that off. And have you thought about or evaluated how that's going to affect traffic flow, and if there's enough room for trucks turning and coming in and loading with that parking area as it's configured? It looks a little tight in there, but oh, there you have the
Yeah, so that's the
you go back,
proposed.
you have the diagram.
It's actually going to provide a significant more site organization because right now it's a little chaotic and guests and people, there's no organization to it. So they're parking sort of haphazardly all over the place and coming in and out of the street. So we have designed it with the proper turning radiuses to get in and out of the space. So it'll be much more organized going forward.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Dupont?
So I just wanted to clarify a couple of points from the application. So I thought that the text of it was pretty concise and organized, but I just wanted to make sure that I understood some of the references. So in the description where it says describe how a literal enforcement of the provisions would be a substantial hardship. I see the reference down in the middle, and it says doing so will vacate the vested rights inherent to the construction of the existing storage building. So we're just talking about the grandfathered status of the building as it exists toward the rear lot line.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And then farther down, in the next paragraph, how desirable relief may be granted, it says allowing the variance and the amendment to the existing variance. So is the amendment to the existing variance the extension of the front of the building 3.8 feet from the street to the west? Is
Well,
that what that is?
it's both actually to the west and to the east, because there's a stairwell you can see, if I can
Yep.
show. I don't know if my screen's up or not, but both, on both sides, and it's not 3.8 feet, it's now 4.7 feet or something. It's actually additional, you can see a foot setback.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But that is what that's referring to, is to.
And then in the tables that were prepared, so this is the part where it gives the setbacks, and it says that the existing right side yard depth is 20.9 feet, and the proposed is the 5 feet. And I understand from the graphics that we have seen that you're looking to slide the new building over to 5 feet away from the storage facility next door, or the lot line between you and the storage facility.
Right.
And it does say, though, that the minimum right side yard would be 10 feet. And I know that you don't have the 5 feet on the existing building to the back. It's much closer to the lot line. So I'm just trying to get a handle on this. So what you're saying is you want to slide that over where you have the 20.9 feet. Is that the distance between the existing front building to the west boundary line?
I'm not sure, I'm not seeing that 29.9 on this plan.
That's what is in your table, and I just wanted to make sure I understood the numbers and where they came from. So it's roughly the 5th page of the application where it has the dimensions laid out, existing, proposed, and required.
Do you know where that dimension is, Brian?
Yeah, so he's talking about towards as you're facing the building, we are adding on to the right-hand side, but so there's two things, right? You either extend the rear warehouse lot encroachment all the way up to the side to the front of the lot, which we're not doing, right? We're pulling that back and we're coming back. So instead of asking for the 10 feet on the sideline, we're asking 5 feet, so that we can accommodate what we need to inside the building.
Okay, and so, but the 20.9 feet that it has in the table is the distance from the side of the existing front building to the boundary.
The 20.9 is, yes, exactly. And we're showing 5.67 feet of setback.
Okay, so in essence, really what you're doing is you're saying you don't want to hit the 10-foot required setback. You want to cut that in half to 5. So you're adding 5 additional feet on that western lot line boundary of the building. So you have that 5 feet times whatever the length of the new proposed structure is going to be. I'm sorry if I'm not being clear, but
Yeah, no, I'm not sure I understand.
so your new proposed building that goes out to the street on the right-hand side as you're facing it from the street, is you're proposing that it be 5 feet away from the lot line instead of 10,
Correct.
which is
That is correct.
And so
Could I interrupt for just a second? I think it would be helpful. I think you still have the rights, Mr. Poison, to
Sure.
get this up. And I think for the benefit of everybody else looking, it would be helpful to see that graphic again.
Okay, so can you see my screen again?
Yes.
So essentially, in an ideal world, we would love to have taken the rear side setback of 0 and carried that all the way to the front, but we are not asking for that. What we since have done is removed all these setback nonconformities and are now carrying a 5-foot setback all the way back instead of 0 where it was. So, in answer to your question here, when we go to this setback, so if that's the existing building, this is our addition. So we're coming off 15 feet, leaving over 5 foot 6, 7 of a new setback at the front building. So does that answer your question?
yeah, so instead of the 15 feet, which is what you're proposing, if you met the 10-foot, it would be 10 feet roughly in terms of the distance from the building, right? Where you have your cursor.
Yeah, so if we took the full setback, we would reduce our building,
Yeah.
obviously by an additional 5 feet.
Okay, but that would make that space 10 feet wide going down, right? If you met the setback, you'd be
Correct.
10 feet.
Correct.
And so that's, in your opinion, too narrow?
Yes, because we can't get the stair tower and the egress that we need to get in and up into the existing building.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Poisson, while you have that up, I think that you have marked on the other side where the 10-foot setback line is, and maybe you, by the other side, I sort of meant the right side as I look at it now on CV 101. And it's worth pointing out where the 10-foot setback would be.
Yeah, I don't think
if
I
you
have it on
had
that particular drawing, right? We're showing it, it would be about here.
No, I'm talking about the other side.
Oh, here?
Yeah, in the middle of the parking, you've got this line that will go right through most of the cars in the parking lot
Yeah.
that you have over there on the as we look at it is the right side.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you were observing the 10 feet, that's where the line would be.
Correct.
And if the line were there, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wouldn't, I mean, in addition to the fact that I'm not sure that you could actually fit all the parking spaces in, you wouldn't have the turning radiuses, would you?
Yeah, I mean the shape of the lot is so strange, right? It's this pie-shaped piece, so we start tapering very narrow to get back to get any usage at the rear of the lot, right? Because you have this piece coming around in this little wedge shape. It creates a substantial hardship on the property.
And is this a unique property for here? If you look on the map and the shape of, there are all kinds of strange places, strange shapes that are along the Millbrook side of there. I mean, they're pretty regular on the north side of Dudley Street, but on the south side of the
Yeah, I mean
Street,
certainly
they look
for
like
an industrial lot, it's strange in its own, right? We're trying to increase the commercial viability in the town.
And in your application, you do rely on the fact that along the street side, there's a 10-foot drop, but we haven't really talked about that in this discussion so far. I wonder to what extent that actually contributes to your problems. That too is, I mean, all of Dudley Street is going up a hill, so that part is not very unique.
Yeah, it is sloping.
I mean, I think the application says that there's a 10-foot drop from
Yeah, as you come down
west to east.
Correct. You can see it looking across the street, right? It's sloping down.
Yep. Are there any other questions?
I mean, it is the steepest part of the street too, which doesn't help.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. DuPont.
so just for clarification, is the parking the redevelopment board? Or is that us?
It was up, yeah, we spoke with planning on this, and they suggested that would be part of the redevelopment board's authority.
So our understanding is the ARB's purview.
The ARB can, I mean, the way the ARB can approve the parking. It can reduce if you know, of course, you have to do some things to deserve that, which we aren't discussing now. But the ARB either through, I mean, as we have the power to reduce the amount of parking that's necessary, that's applied here to down to 25%. And that would be done by special permit. And if you were applying for that special permit and seeking that reduction in parking, that's what the ARB would do. I mean, they may or may not do it, but that's what would be within the grounds of it. Um, so that would, and we both have the power to do that. If they denied it, what would you do?
Well,
They
we
didn't give
understand.
you
Yeah, we're subject to their jurisdiction. We understand that, but yeah, we consulted with the planning, and they suggested this is what we need to do first: do this piece, and then leave everything else to the ARB, including the parking, including architecture, all of that, and so that we were kind of guided in this direction.
Okay, and we ordinarily try to act after Concom has acted because everything can be upset by things that they might require you to do. And it's unusual for us to go first. And I take it that the reason is that a variance is sort of harder to get, and there's no point in going through but I mean, that generally is true. And it's a little bit, but was that too the planning department's recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, we understood this to be the foundational piece, right? I mean, this is really what allows this building to be developed. And if we don't get past this, we may not even be subject to the jurisdiction of conservation. You know, if we put some other redesign of the property. But so that's why we came here first.
I see. Because ordinarily, I think that we would be considering conditioning the variance on your succeeding and getting an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. And you're saying you're not even confident that you need anything from the Conservation Commitment.
No, I'm saying if we don't get past this stage and we can't construct this building, any other type of redesign of the building may push us outside of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission.
I see.
We fully understand that. No, if we receive the relief requested here, we will be subject to conservation's jurisdiction.
Yeah. And essentially, the existing building to get built had a variance granted to allow it to be built. And essentially, going forward without a variance, we cannot do anything meaningful with the property unless we get that approval. And then, of course, we would go to the ARB next, conservation, and follow all the steps. But without the variance, we are not going to be able to make many improvements.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Go
Mr. Mr. Hawley, you've got the floor.
Just to understand the interior layout of the facility, not to delve into the ISD matter or, for reviewing egress or any of that here, because it's not part of the, our purview, but wanted to see why a facility of this size need 3 means of egress. There's 3 staircases there. So just want to understand the functionality requirements there, just so we can understand.
So we're providing interior access between adjacent areas. So if that's the staircase that you're talking about.
There's one staircase on the right side, which is a new addition. The previous building had an exterior egress stair, right? And then there's one up north of the elevator shaft, and then there's one in the new facility down right in the middle there. So there are 3 staircases.
Yes, so they're providing interior access.
Right. So not necessarily from an egress standpoint, but more from a facility access standpoint.
Well, there's a partial basement that needed a second stair and that we cannot access from the far side.
And which one is that? Is the new one on the left side?
Yeah. So these are the stair 1, stair 2.
Right.
So that's the basement, which we can't access from that side.
And then at this level 3 and
So this is the first floor, right? So that's the basement. So the stair, stair.
yeah.
Then that one starts on the main floor. And then that one drops.
So
Holly, are you set?
I'm just trying to understand the requirement of one, meaning it again, but trying to. So the one on the left side, which is what is dictating the side yard setback, if I may, not to try to, you know, um, reduce the width of it by 5 feet, which Mr. Dupont was mentioning. I was just trying to understand the staircase requirement is facilitating the egress from which floor, if I may
But
clarify.
because the building is 3-story at the front, not at the rear.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so the one in the back is only providing access for the basement and the first floor, and the one in the
Correct.
front. Okay,
Correct. So it's primary and internal. The other two are the main egress pieces.
right. Okay, that helps, Mr. Hamlin.
Are you okay now, Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Fine?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Are there any more questions before we go to the public hearing?
Mr. Chair.
Public comment. Yes, that sounds like Mr. Rosenberg. I can't actually see who said that.
Nope, I think it was
Mr.
Mr. Baranowski.
Okay.
One of the other lawyers. Quick question. So in terms of thinking about soil shape or topography, just to make sure I'm clear about this, in your application, you emphasized shape. It sounds here like you're really emphasizing that as well. You also noted the topography that there is a drop of 10 feet along the street frontage. I guess my question on that is that particularly unique to this piece of property? Because wouldn't that also affect, say, the property across the street? And I guess the point behind this is shape sufficient? Is this the shape of this property sufficient to kind of get you over the finish line on that requirement?
I would certainly argue that that alone is sufficient and only required to meet one of the conditions, but I think the cumulative impact of all three adds to the argument in support of the variance.
And just another quick question on the shape, because you may have answered this before, but I didn't quite catch it if you did. This kind of weird trapezoidal pie type shape is, to your understanding, pretty unique for the industrial district, right?
Yes, that's what we understand it to be.
All right, thank you.
So I'd just like to follow up on that for a little bit. Across the street, that is to say, on the north side of Dudley Street, everything is quite regular, actually, and all the way practically up, all the way up and down. I wonder if this is a sudden thing to ask you to do, Ms. Rolston, but if you could put the GIS map up, you can see the lot lines more easily, and maybe that'll help answer this question.
Do I need to stop sharing then?
Probably you
Yeah.
do, I think.
Yep, hold on 1 second, I will. Of course, the website's not cooperating. Okay,
You have any luck? I'm
yeah,
able to.
I think I'm good.
Okay. Because the amount of delay that would be introduced by my trying to get sharing to work is quite large.
I just pulled it up. I think everyone can see it.
There's Grove Street, there's Dudley Street. So if you look on the other side, on the north side of the street, they're not perfectly rectangular, but they're not, you don't see special weirdnesses there. But on the south side, you do. The property that we're talking about is sort of next to that. Yes, it's right there. And then if you keep on going down the street, well, as it turns out, it's up the street, up Dudley Street. You've got all kinds of weird properties. You've got one with a pork chop thing. You've got lots of things with oblique angles, but I get and some probably would give rise to applications here before. If you look way up there, there's one that I can't even imagine what that actually looks like, but it's really near the river, and so I think that isn't the problem here that it's not enough that it's not rectangular. It's every property is sort of is irregularly shaped in its own way, and that this particular one is shaped in a way that makes it very difficult to use for the kind of industrial use you want to use. Isn't that basically your argument?
Yes, and I would say that, there still are a fair amount of rectangularly shaped parcels on that side of the street, and none of them have this sort of triangular parcel standing alone like that. I think it's the most uniquely shaped parcel of the entire street, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, most unique is always a difficult thing, but if you didn't want, if you just wanted to put in a use that's like some of the other uses, which have got just small businesses, this would be perfectly appropriate, perfectly easy to do, right? Isn't the problem? The problem here is what you want to do with it. The kind of industrial use you want to make of it requires a big building, and putting a big building on this weird parcel makes it is a difficult thing to do while obeying the zoning bylaw. And I guess one of the things that I've got some concern about is to what extent, if it's useful for some purposes, which it has been because I've been operating under a variance for some time, to what extent is just accommodating the desire to use it more aggressively in the category of unreasonable hardship. When if you did what many of your neighbors are doing, you could easily fit on it what you wanted to do. And you yourself said it was a function of the fact that this is an industrial property and you need a lot of space for industrial properties and for industrial uses is kind of driving what the unreasonable hardship is. So it would be helpful if you could just sort of unpack the argument as to why it is that I mean, I understand why not being able to do everything you want to do with it is bad for you, but this is a matter of what's inherent in the land. And I guess the question is, why is this the kind of hardship that ought to qualify if you could have a less intense use that doesn't require the relief that you're looking for?
I think many of the less intense uses would be permitted in other zoning districts. This is an industrial zoning district, and the fact that we put office space in there, you can put office space in an office designated district. I mean, this is industrial, and so yeah, you could. Can it be used for other purposes? Certainly, but are we suffering a hardship because of the shape of this lot that doesn't allow us to use it for an industrial use such as we're proposing? I think that supports that argument.
Okay, is there anything else?
Would it be beneficial to ask Mr. Santini the difficulty he's had in trying to find a tenant in such a small space?
I think it would be fine. It would be good. I mean, this is one of those things where, at least in my opinion, that you're probably pretty strong on the shape of the lot. Certainly, that often is what trips people up when you're trying to get a variance. And we don't usually lean too hard on the issue of hardship. But here you sort of get pretty quickly to the issue of hardship, and I'd like to make sure that the record is as full as you'd like.
Mr. Chair, may I make a
Rosenberg,
comment?
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with you, and I was thinking along the same lines that it seemed I am concerned about the mere desire to expand the structures on a lot to increase the size of a business as being a justification or an example of an undue hardship. Um, though as I'm looking at it, one thought I just had, and maybe why I'm thinking about this a little differently, is looking at that existing structure at the back of the property. And I don't know that this is a criteria or justification we can use, but I just note that if it's dilapidated and falling down, and you were to replace that structure with a like size structure, in order to configure that on the lot and accommodate the necessary parking, because of the shape, you may run into challenges in doing that. So perhaps one way of looking at it is that I see this as maybe slightly different than taking a lot that didn't have that building in the back, an outbuilding, and desiring to create a new addition and new uses and space that was never on that lot. We might see that a little differently than just saying the desire to reconfigure and rebuild that existing outbuilding into an attached warehouse of similar size presents challenges due to the configuration of the lot. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, or if that fits within our criteria, but I just note that.
Mr.
I think one of the things too is that the shape of the lot, if you were to square this lot out and, remove its irregularities, you'd likely be able to fit, and I don't have it, the building that we're proposing and meet the side and the rear setbacks. But it's because it's shaped so oddly that we can't comply with those setbacks. So I think that's the argument for why the shape is forcing us into this portion of the lot that doesn't support compliance with the setbacks.
Mr. Gogan, just out of, in what, I certainly understand how the argument about hardship relates to the shape. The existence of the area that's next to Mill Creek, you've got here just a tiny squiggle of that's basically within this area. This lot doesn't go very far into the right there where that reverse right triangle is. That is a steep slope, and only what I'm guessing a foot or two of it is on your lot, and most of it is not on the lot, is on the public land there. Isn't that true?
I'm sorry, no, it's in most of the wetlands or the conservation
Well,
area.
it's a steep slope going down there, and I assume
Correct.
it's going down towards the brook, and so you've got a little bit. I think you even have a retaining wall somewhere in the
Right.
proposal to support the parking that is on your property. But it doesn't seem to me that part is a very significant part of the argument for why it is that you need the variance, although I'm sure that it's important from the Conservation Commission's point of view.
Yeah.
It's a steep slope there.
It's yeah. Neither the soil conditions or the topography are the primary issues for sure. It's certainly the lot shape, but I just think in the cumulative, when you add them all together, it does impose those restrictions that make us unable to comply
Okay.
with the setback requirements.
All right, let me ask again if there are any more questions from the board. You have some time to talk about this later if you like, but it would be nice if there is anyone here to address this application to invite them to do that. I do not believe I see anyone who's likely to be in that category, but if there is, please either press the react button or call *9. All right, seeing no one seeking recognition, we'll close the public comment and turn to discussion on the board. We've got a fair amount it's clear that where we are is that we have the 4 criteria that we normally use. The first has to do whether the hardship that is asserted by the applicant is occasioned or flows from soil shape or topography. Any one of them is enough. You don't have to check all the boxes, but it has to flow from one of those. The second is whether or not what results gives rise to undue hardship that we can recognize under the statute. Third is whether or not there's a relief can be granted consistent with the public interest. And fourth, which hardly ever actually independently is at issue, but fourth is whether or not relief can be granted without contravening any purpose of the bylaw or consistently with the purposes of the bylaw. We have to decide. We have to decide with respect to each one of these criteria that the applicant meets them. If you fail on any of them, you fail on all for all practical purposes. So you have to do all of it. And so we've had a discussion on soil shape and topography, and the way in which we normally proceed is I'd like to proceed through the list of each of these things and ask if everyone believes that it doesn't meet the requirements, and we'll sort of check off those boxes and then return to the whole issue at the end. So the first question is whether or not any of you would have difficulty finding that, assuming that the hardship that has been asserted here counts as an unreasonable hardship, whether it flows from soil shapes or topography. Would anyone, I mean, we've sort of seen that argument and just talked about it. Does anyone have a heartbeat over, not a heartbeat, a difficulty finding that this does flow from soil, from shape, and maybe could put topography or soil? Okay, so it seems like we're pretty there. What about the question of undue hardship? And I think one position that's been taken is that, I mean, there is some degree of heartburn that comes from the fact that this is being done in order to increase, in order to basically just increase the intensity of use of the property and to meet the expectations of growth. And at least two reasons have been given why it is that should be respected. One of them is that while you might be able to, if you didn't make an industrial use, you would, which is envisioned in this district, you could maybe make something smaller, but that the size of the kind of use that the applicant wants to make requires a larger building. And in addition to that, we should be thinking about what the reasonable expectation of somebody who wants to make an industrial use out of here as being sort of the baseline for what a hardship would be. And that's probably an inexpert summary of Mr. Gilgan's position, but you all heard it, so if I got it wrong, you can correct me. The other is Mr. Rosenberg's theory, which I think is also worth considering, and that is that this was once set up for a use that's like this. Somebody has used it that way now for some 50 years. And while whatever we might think about this, if this was a wholly new project that we would have tabula rasa on, attempting to expand a use of a certain kind that's been there and been part of people's expectations now for decades, is entitled to a certain amount of respect in assessing the undueness of the hardship. So I present those to you as two possible theories, and what my question is whether anyone has a difficulty making this finding or thinks that a rationale for this finding ought to be wholly or partly something other than what I just summarized.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Baranowski.
I'm not saying I have a difficulty, but there was a question that was asked earlier. You asked about this extent to which the Mr. Gilgum's client was having difficulty using this property or finding a tenant to use this property
Yes.
if it wasn't expanded. And given that their theory is that, in essence, it would make, without this variance, it'd be very difficult for a modern business to use this industrial zone to its purpose. I would like to hear more about that, just because I think it would help to flesh out the record on that point.
That's right. I think Mr. Poisson volunteered one of the Santinis, and then we got distracted. So I wonder if we could go back, Mr. Poisson, and you could find the right person to answer that question.
Yeah, Mark, would you be able to speak to that? I see him on there on mute, but or Greg.
Gary or Greg or anyone of you can speak to the difficulties in leasing out this space in an industrial zone. I know amongst the team we have had discussions about that, but
Right. The record has, that bare topic was mentioned by Mr. Poisson, but
yeah, but
I'm having a guess that either Mr. Santini or not here, because you've been doing a great job, and they decided to.
I doubt.
They're going to try and find tenants right now. That's the issue.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he's answering calls to tenants.
Or maybe they're just on mute.
Maybe I try and text them. Raise them.
Okay, Mr. Baranowski, while we're waiting, maybe we could go on to the next two and then circle back to this when we've got our witnesses on the line. All right, the next question is whether this can be provided consistent with the public interest. Here, I think the basic argument is that this area is supposed to be our industrial district, and using this for an industrial use is exactly what it's for, just like using a single-family residential zone for a single-family residence is what it's for. And this facilitates doing that, and there's no other thing that is a disadvantage. I will say that one thing that we would all say is a disadvantage if the ARB wasn't in the picture has to do with parking. Somebody has to deal with that, and it may be that we need to condition that on appropriate action by the ARB to make sure that base is covered. But other than parking, I do not see, but maybe one of the other of you do, any way in which this might be interfering with the public interest. I will say, in addition to that, its relationship to the very large property next door does not appear to involve the kind of crowding or encroachment that might ordinarily count as something contrary to the public interest. Does anyone have a thought on that? Would anyone have difficulty finding that this relief could be granted in this case if it were otherwise justified without and assuming that parking is appropriately dealt with, as is the Conservation Commission's issues, without without adverse effect on the public interest?
there you go. Okay, thanks. Just a minute.
Okay, so the final thing has to do with the purposes of the bylaw, and the purposes of the bylaw are, among other things, to promote the uses that are involved in the bylaw, to promote the tax base of the town, and there's a number of other things that are in a footnote we do in all of these cases, and that's in section 1 of the bylaw. And I wonder if anyone thinks that there's any way in which granting relief here would adversely affect the purpose of the bylaw. All right, so we've gotten down to the end. At this point, there hasn't been an end, and the spotlight is back on the applicants. And the lawyer and the architect, please find your client.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I have him on the line. He says he's been pressing the unmute button and he can't unmute. So would you take him by voice over the phone here, maybe? I'll put him on speaker.
Sure, that would be fine. I mean, it may be that Colleen can do that.
Okay. Okay, so Mark, just introduce yourself, and then basically the board has asked for an explanation as to the efforts you've made to lease the space and any difficulties you have in getting tenants for this space in the industrial zone. Okay.
So this is Mark Santini. I don't know if you can hear me.
Is that okay, Mr. Chairman? Yep, you're okay.
I think we can. And it will all be recorded.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
So we have owned the building since the 1970s. We bought it from a contractor, the Kenneficks, years ago.
Mhm.
It is a 3-story office space, and we have had multiple tenants throughout the years, and we've been utilizing the storage area in the rear. But since that time, and the way the zoning has changed, and people that are coming to Arlington are looking for a building which has a warehouse. That's the biggest take that we've gotten from realtors, because we were marketing it to rent or sell. And we're down the street at 60 Dudley Street. That's where our headquarters is now. And the best use of this space, according to realtors and where it exists, because we were having difficulty trying to rent the existing building as it was, as a 3-story building. We had to get multiple tenants, and it just wasn't a place where people were congregating to in Arlington on a small industrial commercial area. So our plan was to maximize this space by moving our office down there, and our requirements, being in an industrial space, allows us to put a warehouse on the back of the building. And for that reason, that is why we've asked to come before the board to get relief to increase this building to be more desirable for future tenants, but it's also desirable for us to move down the street, to move our operation down there.
Mr. Baranowski, is there anything more you'd like to hear from Mr. Santini?
Just one follow-up. It sounds like then that tenants who would otherwise rent office space would just look elsewhere, would look for space that's not necessarily in the industrial district, because why go to the industrial district if they need just office space? Is that what you understand that the realtors have said, that the realtors said something along those lines?
No, so the reason why, Arlington doesn't have a lot of demand for office space, on Dudley Street. Dudley Street, if you look at all the other properties, there's an oil company, there's warehouses. Our office is a 6,000 square foot warehouse with 1,000 square feet of office space, which is a single use category. There was not a lot of demand for people to rent our building, for that reason. On Dudley Street, people weren't coming there to look for an office building to rent. So
I think, Mark, that's what Mr. Baranowski said, that people who are looking for office space would go to other parts of town that are far more attractive for office use rather than going down to Dudley Street next to an oil company. Is that right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
It's okay. Does anyone else wish to address that issue? Okay, so we're back on the question about whether we think that there's we've got unreasonable hardship that is flowing from the soil shape and topography. Does anybody have any other reason, any other thing to say addressing that issue? Would any of you have a difficulty finding that there is unreasonable hardship in this case? Okay, so now we've gone through all of the general those things, and there seems to be, at least subject to seeing it written down in an opinion, there seems to be a consensus that the requirements in state law would be met. I would propose that we have a condition that the variance is conditional upon the applicant obtaining special permit relief addressing the deficiency in parking, and that it receive an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission that address the whatever issues regarding anything in the wetlands bylaw that would require their consent. And are there any other conditions that you believe should be attached to the variance? I guess understanding as what I was trying to do with those two conditions is understand that we wouldn't want the variance to be just sticking out there if somehow there's a failure to get to address parking and address the wetlands issues. And on the other hand, the applicant has chosen to go with us first, and we'll be following up with that. And of course, we have the three standard conditions which we reviewed in the last application.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. DuPont.
So I'm not answering your question directly, but I'm just wondering about if we do go ahead and close the meeting, and then something comes of the meeting with the redevelopment board and or the Conservation Commission, are we impeding the progress of this whole thing if the meeting has been closed? I'm just wondering about the procedural aspect of it.
I would, well, we can hardly, it seems to me that under those circumstances, the applicant would have to come back and get an amendment to the variance that we would have at that point given. In other words, the proposal is would be to close the meeting today, write an opinion and deal with it but to condition the continued validity and make it operable only provided that the other agencies that are involved here address the issues. If that doesn't happen, Mr. Champa will know about that, and Mr. Gilgan can come back and say, look, you need to do something else than what you did. I'm guessing that won't happen, but procedurally, I imagine it would happen by seeking to amend the variance, if for no other way, by eliminating those conditions.
Okay, thanks.
Could it be conditioned that the ARB changes don't have to come back to you guys?
I don't think that I think it would not come back. In other words, if they, the underlying idea is that if they have an opinion that essentially, I mean, their opinion will in some way or other deal with the fact that you don't meet the zoning bylaws requirement for parking. And consequently, what I assume will happen is that, well, they will, I don't know, they have a lot of discretion under EDR, but I assume that they'll look in the zoning bylaw for the provisions for reducing the requirements by up to down to as far as 25%, but that requires them to make certain findings for you about reducing parking demand at the site. And that's what they do under EDR. That's the way it would be done. That's the way we would do it as well. That we operate under the same bylaw. If they do that, then they've got no reason to come back to us.
Okay.
Mr. Rosenberg, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So as you said, Mr. DuPont, is that satisfactory to you?
Yeah, it was just a sort of a cart before the horse or chicken and egg sort of thing. I think that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, otherwise we could just put it in a continuance for a long time, waiting for everyone else to act. but that both puts question that we've got statutory obligations anyway, and so it doesn't seem like that would be the most orderly way to get things done. But we all have to coordinate, and I think that this is the way I would propose doing it in an opinion. Okay. Does anyone have the question before us now is whether or not we should close the record, and that's typically what we do when we begin to make a decision. On the other hand, if you close the hearing, we no longer can take any new information from anybody, except lawyers. Lawyers can always advise us as to what our legal obligations are. And anyway, lawyers write the legal obligations, so they always write that in. So I think that does anyone have any objection to closing the public hearing now? Feel that it would be unwise to do in some way? All right. So the chair moves to close the public hearing. I guess that's all that's needed right now. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. DuPont? We'll have to do this by roll call vote. Mr. DuPont?
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Holy?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
The chair votes yes and is interested in, and I don't think I forgot anybody, did I? No.
Nope.
So the motion carries. The hearing is closed. Our practice is to write a decision on this sort of thing, which would come back to us or would come back to the board at our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from today. Ms. Ralston, is that right? I think it is. It's usually that's what it is, and today's the 14th, so that would be the 28th. And I think I just registered.
May 14th, yes.
May 14th, right? This is the 28th. Okay, so that's when we would expect to have it back, assuming that nothing crops up from between now and then that makes us need to have more deliberation at that point. You should probably expect to have a decision then, and you can go forward with your other commissions.
Great, thank you
Very much.
Now, you all know that afterwards there's a process of putting this in the land records, and there are prerequisites to the opinion actually being in effect. And Mr. Gilkin understands all those things, and we'll make sure that you do it exactly right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, I think at this point we're finished with this one, and then we can move to administrative items. Mr. Klein has been waiting for Ms. Ralston's signal probably, and is ready to receive the chairmanship back.
Thank you all. So we are going on our agenda. We will go back to item number 1, which is approval. So what's my gotta read my little spiels. So moving on to administrative items, these items relate to the operation of the board and as such will generally be conducted without input from the general public. The board will not take up any new business on prior hearings, nor will there be the introduction of any new information on matters previously brought before the board. I see there are no members of the public here anyways. So number 1, approval of the meeting minutes from April 14th, 2026. These minutes were prepared by Ms. Ralston, distributed to the board for questions or comments, and a final version posted back to the board. Are there any additional questions or comments in relation to the minutes from April 14? Seeing none, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve the minutes from the April 14th, 2026 meeting of the board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote of the board to approve. Mr. DuPont.
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon.
Yes.
Mr. Holly.
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
The chair votes yes, those minutes are approved. That brings us to item 2 on our agenda, the approval of docket decision in docket 389451 Greeley Circle. This was decision that was written by Mr. Hanlon, distributed to the board for questions and comments, and I believe a final version put back in the record. Are there any additional questions or comments as they relate to this decision for Greeley Circle? Seeing none, I move the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3894 51 Greeley Circle, which grants a special permit for the erection of a pergola over an existing deck under section 539D in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote of the board. To the voting members, Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. That is decision is approved. So that brings us to item number 3 on our agenda. Election for zoning board officials. I would ask if there are any nominations for the position of chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I nominate Christian Klein.
I will accept the nomination. Are there any additional members of the board who would like to put their name in for chair? Seeing none. I will go ahead and we'll do a roll call vote for the approval of Christian Klein as chair. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Barnowski,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So thank you all very much. I know I say this every year, but you know, I'm more than happy to let somebody else be chairman of this board. We'll work on that. The next up would be nominations for vice chair. Are there nominations for the position of vice chair? I will go ahead and nominate our current vice chair, Mr. Patrick Hanlon. Do you accept?
Yes, I accept. I'm sorry.
So then, are there any other members of the board who would like to run for the position of vice chair? Seeing none, a roll call vote for Patrick Hanlon for vice chair. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Congratulations, Mr. Hanlon, being reelected as vice chair. The third position we vote on is the position of clerk. Our current clerk is Colleen Ralston, and I will nominate her for the position of clerk.
Second. She accepts.
Ms. Ralston, do you accept the nomination for the position of clerk?
I do.
Wonderful. So are there any other, I would ask if there are any other members of the board who would like to serve as clerk, but I think Ms. Ralston does such an excellent job. I would not want to interfere with that. So roll call vote of the board, Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So congratulations to Ms. Ralston on being reelected as our clerk.
Thank you.
Ew. With that, that leads us to item 4 on our agenda, which is discussion of zoning board rules and regulations. I know I believe we had sent out earlier, I think, or was it Mr. Baranowski? Brad, I think you had asked a question about how often people were clicking on things on our website.
I did, yes.
So, I know Colleen had taken a look at that, and I don't know, Colleen, if you have that handier than I do. To track down the email. But the one email I did not load.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I have the email up if you.
Oh, if you have
You
it,
do,
yeah, that'd be
okay.
great. If you don't mind sharing it.
Good, same timing, but
Oh no, Colleen, you do it. You can probably share it much easier than I can.
There we are. So I will note that this count was done after our last hearing where we said we were going to discuss our rules and regulations. I will admit, I think 3 of those are mine.
2 of them are mine.
So people do seem to be accessing the various guidance we have on our website.
Not a lot.
But not a lot.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
If you have it handy. I mean, I think this is pretty clear. This is not a lot of access, but just kind of to put it in context, how many applications have we had over the past year or in this span?
Question.
Roughly. I mean, I should know, but I don't. I just read them and I don't really tally them.
It feels like we
I
do
can-
maybe 4 a month, so somewhere in the range of 50 over the course of a year. Colleen, does that feel like the right number?
yes, our statistics go anywhere from 48 to 52 every year.
Okay.
So this is pretty low. If particularly if you strike out 5 of those being at least 5 of those as just being us, and
Yeah.
we could
Yes.
surmise that maybe one is Mr. Moore. Just sorry, but I guess my question when I saw this was to the board was, do we think this is just a function of where they're located? They're a function of who applies. Many people come here, I think they don't have a lawyer, and so they might not even think about the rules and regulations. I was curious about what might be theories of what's driving the relatively low, pretty low, I would say, access to these, since this is also something we'd want to think about if we don't want to go through and revise all this and just have them kind of sit hidden and no one looks at them.
Oh,
Mr.
absolutely.
Chair?
Yes, please.
I know now that one of the newer features in OpenGov is that we can actually put these links where we would want them in the links to the documents, where we would want them in the application. So if we want someone to refer to something before they answer the questions, we can do that. And Carrie will do that for us, but
Okay.
she's away at a conference this week. So she said when she got back, we would do some playing with it to see what that would look like.
Oh, that would be great.
Sounds very helpful.
One of the things we could do, I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done in order to push people towards seeing these things or to checking them out, and that we are probably, if we want to make them useful at all, we would have to do. But we have at the end of currently we have at the end of the application form that people swear under penalties of perjury that they see that they've read the residential design guidelines. And I'm given the limitations that we are operating under on the use of that. I'm a little bit nervous as to whether that is appropriate, but it might be appropriate to say that you've looked at the rules of regulation so that you understand the whole ensemble of the actual rules that you're going to be subject to. And just, I wouldn't necessarily say under penalty of perjury, but if you make people affirm that, a number of people will, just because that's one of the steps you're supposed to take. And and also for some people who don't know that there are rules, that would be something that some people would go and look for. So just one suggestion is that the application that we use have some reference to the rules and encourage people or ask people to affirm that they've actually looked at them. Not that I think that every affirmation of that kind is likely to be true, but this is just a probabilistic thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I think particularly combining that with, it sounds like there's an ability to make these clickable or at least even pop up based upon what an applicant does in the application. And that combination would just heighten the chance that someone actually takes the time to do more than just do what you do when you get, the big long thing of it's fine print at the end of your cell phone bill or something. You just scroll through and say, yeah, sure, I did this.
Right.
But maybe given that this is people's property, they will take this a little more seriously.
You could always say that if you don't actually look these things up, then you will and you have a defect in your application, you will automatically get a 6-week delay, subject to meeting the statutory requirements for our action. And maybe people would say, and what's more is if you have an architect or a lawyer, we will identify whoever it is who signed the application, so that you know who it is to sue for malpractice if they incur a lot of extra expense because of that.
I guess my question is what the purpose of the rules are, right? And in my mind, the rules can do a few things. They dictate the internal governance of the board, right? Appointments and things, and structure and things like that, which I don't think we want to hold the public to studying before applying. It can prescribe the procedures sort of in a technical sense to make sure that we are consistent in how we expect applications to be filed and so forth. And that's kind of both for the public and for us to make sure we're consistent in that. And then the third, which I'm not sure that we do, but we may want to do, is the sort of guidance type aspect, right? Helping people, making the process user friendly to an applicant, a member of the public, right? And I think depending on which parts of the rules are fulfilling which of those purposes dictates whether or not it matters that someone acknowledge they've read them or reviewed them prior to applying, right? For example, I don't care necessarily. I'd love for people to understand how we function, but I don't know that's necessary to require someone to understand the governance of the board to apply. But certainly if we decide to expand the rules to include a sort of user-friendly guide of what the board is and why the board functions and why you have to apply and what criteria you probably need to meet, that seems like something you'd want people to read.
I
just to think about what we're trying to do with the rules before thinking about how we require people to click on it.
Right. I agree completely, Nick. And I have actually think they are in the inverse order from the one order in terms of the importance is the inverse order. The rules, if we did nothing other than provide what you have called the guidance rules, I would be perfectly satisfied. And there are some additional things that applicants would find it useful because they continually make mistakes about it. Just sort of understanding what the process is and that sort of thing, which is not immediately directions, but something that makes people feel more comfortable with the process. With respect to other things, I don't necessarily believe that they have to be in formal rules or not. I mean, if we wanted to have rules about rules that related to how we elect officers, rules that relate to our actual, I mean, it's helpful to note to be able to say what Christian says every time, and you have to file this with the with the clerk, and that we'll do an opinion that we'll try to get right, and all of those kinds of things that don't affect what they do, but affect what they expect, are in a category where it's valuable for them to know that, because otherwise they'll ask us, or we'll have feel necessary to say it all orally again the way we do now. But the key thing is that what I'd like, my objective in wanting to have rules is to get applications in a situation. It's not just a matter of being user friendly to them. It's a matter of making them user friendly to us. We want to have applications that don't find us having to make statements like, well, the application has a lot of errors in it, but we don't think any of them are material to the decision we're about to make, which is something that we have been saying from time to time. And everything will go faster. The meetings will go shorter. And if people understand what they're supposed to do and of course do it, but that's what I think is really the important stuff. And I think actually some of the stuff, the purely internal procedures, could be dealt with a memorandum of internal procedures or resolutions or things like that, and not even include them in a document that is intended for somebody else entirely. And that's not, I mean, they need to be public, but they don't necessarily need to be a boilerplate that everybody has to work their way through.
Yeah, and I think if you haven't taken a look, the rules and regs for the ARB are actually interesting, because they're a little more conversational than legalistic. So I think we had discussed the last time, I think we have a sort of a subgroup who is considering meeting to tackle this over the coming months. I did have a brief side conversation with town council, who confirmed that as long as the meetings are held in a publicly accessible location and their proper notice is given, we can have as many of whatever kind of meeting we want. I don't think he specifically answered the question that, could we meet at, Donut Villa or something like that. But we should probably pick a more readily accessible location than that. I'm sure we could find the conference room at town hall pretty readily.
You can do
Or
a
we
lot
can
of
meet online and encourage people to call in.
Right. We have on occasion had public meetings whenever we visit a site.
True.
We go through that all, and it's exactly the same process.
Yeah.
And things are public if you make them public. We could all have them in your house and serve beer if we wanted to, as long as you were willing to allow anybody who showed up in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I would card in that regards, but
that's right. That's a good point. I don't think we can exclude people who are under 21. So we're stuck with that unless you've got lemonade too.
There are 2 places at 51 Grove that we can use as well.
Ah, okay. Right. Is there any other topics in regards to rules and regs that we want to discuss this time? Seeing none. So our next meeting, as we said, is on Tuesday, May 12th. Colleen, what's on the agenda for the 12th?
For the 12th, we have one number 9. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry, hold on one second. It's 304 Washington.
Okay.
And they are non-conforming, adding an addition to increase that non-conformity. And then the other one after that on the 26th, I believe, is 9 Lancaster. It's a 2,700 square foot piece of property, and they just want to square it off, but they don't have enough open space and stuff. So
Okay.
okay.
Sounds good. Right. recent updates on Thorndike Place. So Thorndike Place comprehensive permit in East Arlington. The board issued the permit back in 2021. It has been in litigation for a long time, and then it came out of litigation, and then they needed to get a state wetlands permit, which they were denied. They had appealed to the state. The state issued a an approval, and it has now there's a suit has been filed claiming that the state should not have issued the wetlands permit. So the
Christian,
long
I think the suit is actually not yet in the courts. I think that we should look to see, but I think that there's an administrative appeal mechanism in the State Department, and that's where it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've received I think everyone may have been emailed a copy of the note of the Hill Law memo, but I don't know if I haven't had a chance to fully vet it. And then there was a question. I had asked a question of town council about what the status is of our comprehensive permit that we had issued so long ago, and whether it was still valid. And I had received a correspondence back from Claire Ricker, the Director of Planning and Community Development. She says, as it turns out, the comprehensive permit issued for Thorndike Place is subject to the Mass Leads Act. This act was signed in November 2024 and includes a permit extension act that automatically extends qualifying state, regional, and municipal land use development permits in effect between January 1st, 2023 and January 1st, 2025 by 2 years. So by her calculation, she believes that it is now valid at least through December 1st of 2026. So, but until at least December 1st of this year. So we'll.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Just wanted to point out that the comprehensive permit itself, the relevant condition is J1, says that the permit becomes final 3 years after the time for appeal expires, or the judge signs the last thing necessary to dispose of any appeal.
Okay.
And I don't know when the judge signed anything, but the abutters dropped their appeal in July of 2023, I believe. So that means that even without that act, the 3-year period doesn't expire until July of 2023, until July of 2026. And there also are other provisions for tolling that would relate to things that are not disappealing of that particular decision. And I have no idea what those are, but they would presumably include what you just did. But if it's going to get tacked on to what otherwise would be the ending date, that would be July of 2023, I believe.
Oh, okay. So it's possible that in fact it would be July of 2028.
Yeah.
Okay. But either way, it's still in effect. And it looks like it's back in a process at the state level. So we'll see what happens with that. And I had heard from planning that there was a proposed 40B development at Drake Village on the Lexington end of town, but the initial meeting to discuss it was postponed. So I do not know exactly what is going on in the background on that, but that may come back before us or come before us for the first time at some point this year. All right.
Mr. Chair? A quick thing. So separate from our town website, it is on our town website, but they use a different website, which is nice. There is a new map page, which I don't know if everybody's seen it. It's the ArcGIS. Do you mind if I share it quick?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So when you go looking, it comes up. Can you see it?
No,
Nope.
No. Oh, good. Sure. Okay.
There it goes.
Okay. So when you come onto this now, you have data that you can download about the town, different maps that are static, and then this one, which is maps of everything. It tells you your water distribution, your property tax, all that stuff. But this viewer here, like when we were doing Dudley Street, this was the one that was taken forever. Hopefully it doesn't. 26 Dudley. And when it comes up, it is well defined and very.
Yep.
So it's just a little bit better a little bit easier to see things in this one than in the other ones. If anybody's interested in playing around with all the data and stuff that's in there.
yeah.
That's it.
When I got into it before, I was racing you to try to do that. There's another way of using the same thing, but just clicking that you want to see the zoning map. And
Yeah.
that takes you to, I mean, it's the same map. It's just a different place where it's interacting. But it included the zoning district all in purple so that you could readily see immediately what was in the zoning district and what wasn't, which I thought was useful. But anyway, this is a great thing to play around with too. It's a lot better than the GIS thing that we've been using up to now.
Yeah, Patrick,
always-
that's called the zoning and overlay district. That's the map next to the address and property viewer.
Yeah, so I didn't put in 26 Dudley, but I knew where it was, so I just could just zone in on it.
Yeah. And to get to the start page of it, if you're on the town's website, if you hover over the word departments, you can under Public Works is the graphic information system, or just type GIS into the search bar and it'll get you there. Wonderful.
All right.
Well, I would like to thank you all for your participation in tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. I appreciate everyone's patience throughout the meeting. I'd especially like to thank Colleen Ralston and Mike Champa and Mike Cunningham for their assistance in preparing for and hosting our online meeting. Please note the purpose of the board's recording of the meeting is to ensure the creation of an accurate record of its proceedings. It is our understanding that the recording made by ACMi will be available on demand at acmi.tv within the coming days. Arlington Community Media is dedicated to providing an electronic forum for the free exchange of information and ideas which reflect the talent, skills, interests, concerns, and diversity of the Arlington community. Please visit acmi.tv to learn how to support this valuable public resource. If anyone has comments or recommendations, please send them via email to zba@town.arlington.ma.us. That email address is also listed on the Zoning Board of Appeals website. And to conclude tonight's meeting, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. So roll call vote to adjourn. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The board is adjourned. Thank you all so very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.